Hello, everyone, and welcome in for another edition of Getting to Know our PDGA Global Board of Director candidates. I'm Terry Miller, and today I'm joined by Matt Rothstein. He's going to be talking to us about all of the questions that we see from the PDGA's perspective in order to become a PDGA board member. Matt, the first one is super easy. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Terry, thank you so much for having me here. Matt Rothstein, PDGA 51515. I've been playing the sport since I was a teenager, 30 years. I've been 12 years a PDGA member and a former staff member. I was the PDGA's media manager from 2020 to 24, which is a pretty exciting period in the PDGA's history. And, you and I spent a lot of time on the course together. So I've seen the PDG from all sides, as a player, as a community organizer, as a staffer from the inside at the biggest events. So I've got a pretty wide perspective. I love the organization, and I'm running because I think it can do better, and I've got a pretty clear vision of kind of the changes I want to see.
All right. Well, you've already jumped right into the first question, which is perfect. It's a great segue. I'll give it to you in two parts, which is why are you running for the Global Board of Directors, and what will your priorities be?
Yeah, I'm running for the Global Board of Directors to put forward a proposal that I'm calling the Members' Bill of Rights. These are some simple reforms that really push the PDGA to be more transparent, to be more accountable, and to be more responsive to the members. They're very specific proposals. It's pretty unusual for a candidate to be running for the board with very specific proposals, but that's what I'm doing, and it kind of simplifies things for me a little bit. When people take a look at my platform, they'll know what they're getting. They'll know what my priorities are. Things like open board meetings, things like independent oversight, things like members having a say when the PDGA goes to change its bylaws. So fundamental changes. I want to get the members more involved. And so, if that sounds good to you, take a closer look at my members' bill of rights, and you can know that a vote for Rothstein is a vote for that platform.
Well, and that also follows up with the question, which is which issues will you choose to champion from the seat on the board? And is it pretty much everything you just said?
Yeah, it's everything I just said. I think that being the governing body of the sport is a tough position for those board members to be in. No matter what you do, you're going to get a lot of criticism, a lot of flack from all sides. So there's a temptation to kind of close off, to want to have your discussions behind closed doors, and I totally get that. But the members at the end of the day are the ones who should really be driving this organization. They're the ones who vote for the board members, and so I think they really need to be keyed in on what's going on, what the discussions are taking place, and how their representatives are representing them on the board. So yeah, I think it's a really important change that I'd like to see.
All right. Well, now we'd like you to tell us about your educational and work background, and how do your skills and experience make you the right choice?
Yeah, I went to school to get a music degree, which no regrets. I love music. I'm currently working in the school system, teaching music. So it's been a really rewarding path there. But my real professional background that's relevant to this position is as a media producer. I got started making videos for local clubs here in Northern Colorado. Really got deep into it when I moved to Baton Rouge and got involved with the Kingfish Disc Golf Club there. And that really helped me level up to producing media on the national and global stage. And so, I've produced a ton of content for the PDGA. I've produced something like 30 commercials for the PDGA. All the ads that are still running were produced by my team. The Holy Shot, which featured our very own Terry Miller, was one of my signature projects there. So yeah, it's content production, but it's also a lot of organizational strategizing. To get these big projects produced, you need to work with all the different departments. You need to get buy-in from the stakeholders. You need to get approval by the board to get these things budgeted. So I really, I've got a good feel for the sport. I've spent time on the ground at the biggest events. I've also worked behind the scenes navigating the bureaucracy at the PDGA. So I've had my hands in both of those worlds. And I think that sets me up pretty well.
All right. And what type of benefits do you think the PDGA members should receive?
Uh, Benefits for the members, I think that this is something that PDGA has worked on a lot. We've worked on developing technology. We've developed content. discounts for access to coverage on the disc golf pro tour. These are all great things, and I support trying to expand the benefits that the members receive. But I really think at the end of the day, we've lost sight of the number one benefit that we can offer our members, which is to serve them and to act as a true representative government governing body to give the members a real voice in the future of our sport. That is the number one benefit that I think the PDGA can offer the members, and I think it's been lost. If we get back to that focus, I think a lot of the other things fall into place because we get great feedback, we get great ideas from the membership. They're involved with the decision-making processes. They're more engaged in committees. They're voting in bigger numbers. They understand the issues, and those things are all going to have net positive effects, making the members feel like they're really getting something back from the organization.
Well, speaking of the members, we're going to kind of keep with that theme. And it's asked, how do you think we can increase PDGA membership and how can we grow the sport in underserved areas? And how do we reach new members?
I've got some ideas, from having worked in the media and marketing department about how we can kind of get the word out. I don't think the PDGA has necessarily done a good job of advertising outside of the disc golf bubble. We tend to focus a lot of our advertising on our website and on tour coverage and Jomez, and all those things are really important. But there's a whole world of disc golfers out there, a whole world of potential disc golfers out there that we should be reaching out to through, not what they call non-endemic advertising. So getting outside the disc golf bubble. But I think those things can be important to make a difference, but also I want to bring it back to this idea of member engagement and trust, because I think at the end of the day, the way the PDJ has always been built, the way our real numbers have grown is through word of mouth. It is disc golfers telling their friends about the organization, inviting them to tournaments, telling them about PDGA numbers, telling them about PDGA ratings. I mean, that's our strongest channel to reach people. And if people aren't feeling good, if they're not trusting the PDGA, if they don't feel like they have a real voice or connection, I think they're much less likely to do that word of mouth advertising for us. And so I really do feel like these fundamental foundational changes could have a real downstream impact on things like participation, membership numbers.
Do you think, I'll drill down just a little bit and say, do you think there's anything specific for how we get to these underserved areas? Of course, I know there's foundations and there's things doing, have, these agendas, but is there anything specific that jumps out at you that you'd love to see in getting to an underserved area?
Yeah, I think the work that's being done to put courses in places that aren't very strongly represented, both internationally and also in the U.S. and cities that don't have access to disc golf courses. I mean, that's bread and butter strategy for the PDGA and something really need to lean into it. I know the Macbeth Foundation has really been leading the way on this, and I'd like to see us help those efforts as well as really lean into our own initiatives. Those disc golf courses out there are just like perennial gardens that keep every year, bringing new players to the game. And even if there's nobody out there introducing them to the game, the course itself invites people out. And so I think course expansion is so important. I also think, just to pick one of the underrepresented groups, getting women to participate in higher numbers has always been a challenge for the PDGA. And I think it's one of our biggest opportunities, frankly, because we've got such a strong set of superstars on the women's side of the sport. These unbelievable ambassadors like Kristen Tatar, like Paige Pierce. Kristen, I know at one point I saw a list where she was the second or third most marketable disc golfer, in the entire sport. And so we really need to take advantage of that superstar power. I remember my first big event was 2013. I went to the Memorial in Arizona. And I found myself warming up on the same basket as Sarah Hokum. She had no idea who I was, and I certainly knew who she was. But I was starstruck, and really, that kind of experience just shows me what a connection these women at the top of the game can have across the sport, encouraging other women to play. And so anything we can do to amplify their voices, to expand coverage, to grow their portion of the payouts and the purse, I think that's what we really need to lean into.
Yeah, I believe we're somewhere around 7%. of our overall membership is somewhere between 7 and 9% is women, and it's certainly been a challenge and an opportunity, I think, for decades. And just trying to get more female representation overall is certainly an opportunity, like I said, for the entire PDGA. I agree with you there.
Well, thank you.
So,
Just one, if you don't mind, one more point there is,
yeah, of course.
just looking back at the PDGA's history, I think we need to take a little bit of accountability for the way that the PDGA has handled this situation. Starting from the very first World Championships in 1982, there was no women's division. When Ed Hedrick ran the first World Frisbee Championship in the mid 70s, there was no women's division. And so this is a bad foot to get started on. This sends the wrong message. So I think we need to recognize these shortcomings that we've had in the past and really put the extra effort in to make up for it.
Okay, well, that kind of leads right into, as we're talking about getting new players out there in competition, as you even just referenced a minute ago. The next one is, how does the PDGA increase the number of competitive events, and how do we make the events more accessible?
Great question. We've actually done pretty well, I think, in growing events. We got close. If we didn't hit 10,000 events in the last couple of years, I think we were close. So that's been great. But we need to continue. We need to continue that trend, and I think encouraging new TDs to get to stick their toes in the water and to get some experience is the number one priority. And at my time in the PDGA, I was one of the people who was spearheading things like PDGA Rules School, PDGA TV School video series, educational products that would really reach people and make it feel accessible for somebody who wanted to try to run a tournament to get the information, to understand what they needed to have lined up before they start their first tournament.
And is there anything about making them more accessible? I know you just mentioned TDs. How about for the players as well? Is there anything in particular for accessibility to players, or maybe you feel we've hit the right mark?
I mean, we're doing a lot of the right things, honestly. We've got a nice funnel system starting with the PDGA leagues and C tiers, which are really accessible. The leagues, especially, the rules are a little bit lax, and we can kind of ease people into getting a feel for sanctioned play. But, honestly, at the end of the day, I hope people play tournaments and I hope that the PDGA membership expands. Those are really important goals. But I also think that the PDGA needs to take ownership of its role as the governing body of the sport and not just of the members. And so even if players don't want to compete in events, even if they just want to go throw frisbees around in the park, which is how I started, and I wasn't a PDGA member for the first 15 years that I was throwing discs. The PDGA, if they're going to be the real governing body of the whole sport, they need to feel like they represent those players as well as the tournament players.
Well, that sounds like there's some opportunities. And the question here is then, where do you think the PDGA is falling short? And where do you think the PDGA should focus their time?
Well, I touched on this a little bit before, but the PDGA, when they're on the receiving end of a lot of criticism, as they always will be, that's part of the nature of being in a leadership position and being the government. They need to grow tougher skin, and they need to still, even though they're taking criticism, they need to be open about their processes so that people can be educated about the issues that are on the table. These issues, they tend to be oversimplified in the media. They tend to be sensationalized in the media, and in the lack of real, open, transparent information, people are left to speculate. So we've got these podcasts that, entertaining as they are, they're really built on speculation because that's really all they have to go on. So I think that the PDGA needs to fill this information void. They need to really do more to educate the members, especially the highly engaged members, the people that go out and vote in PDGA elections, so that these people who love disc golf, love the PDGA, can go out on the internet on these forums and counteract some of these kind of wilder, speculative theories that are out there. Let's fill the speculation and the darkness with light and information.
Uh, I'll ask the follow up to that, which is there anything in particular where maybe you see an opportunity to do that? Any specific medium or route or platform that you feel like is an area of opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now I think that the PDGA does a pretty good job of getting member feedback for something like rules changes. Although that has gone sometimes better, sometimes worse in the past. I know there have been a few rules where we maybe got out ahead of where the players wanted us to be, and it kind of had to pull back. But in general, um, the process for updating rules where we're collecting member input and we're involving the committees, I think that's a model for how the PDGA could be making decisions in other areas like event developments, like international growth, like fundamental changes to our bylaws. These are key areas. It shouldn't just be the rules of play on the course, but also the rules that govern the PDGA itself, the rules that govern the board. Those are things that the members should be educated on, should be involved with.
Okay. Well, it might sound crazy, but we're pretty much near the end. And with all that, I know we've had all these, we'll say, stock questions that all candidates are going to be answering. At the very end, we've got an open-ended one, which is there anything that we missed? If so, take some time and tell us anything else that's on your mind.
Well, this sport is grown from the bottom up. This is a grassroots sport where people are out there getting their hands dirty, installing courses themselves, running leagues themselves. The PDGA's job is not to do it all. The PDGA's job is to remove barriers for all these hardworking volunteers, for all these passionate disc golfers out there, and to make sure that they're set up for success. And so that's the way the organization was really founded on. In 1986, the PDGA, their first constitution was ratified in almost a completely unanimous vote. There was only two votes against the original PDGA constitution. It was drafted by Ed Hedrick, and it was really meant to ensure that the PDGA members always had a key seat at the table, that they could see what was going on, that they could weigh in on important decisions. And so we've drifted away from that a little bit as we've gotten larger, and that's understandable. But I think we need to refocus on some of these core foundational principles. It's not just us; it's other sporting organizations, FIFA, the IOC, USA Gymnastics. If you look at their recent history, they've all undergone some scandals, some criticisms, some PR issues, and they've all responded with these transparency reforms, with these reforms that are meant to restore confidence by opening up their processes to their members. And so this isn't something that's foreign to the PDGA. This isn't something that's foreign to sporting governing bodies. This is best practice, and so I'm really trying to champion this idea that the PDGA can do it. We can do it, and it's really going to improve our relationship with our members, and it's going to set us up for continued growth in the future.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll just from my personal perspective, I'll say it's often asked, well, what does the PDGA do? What are they in charge of? And those types of questions come up often. And so to see and hear someone talking about really wanting to push some of that transparency and some of those initiatives forward, I think a lot of members could certainly appreciate that, and maybe members and non-members alike that can learn more about it. So I appreciate your position in that sense. I thank you for sharing everything. And I'll say, which I've said to everyone, anyone that's willing to just put their hat in the ring, to go through this process, through the initial stages, to then get to this stage as we kind of whittle down in terms of our candidates, to then put yourself out there, share your experiences and your thoughts and everything that you've done along with your work history. I just want to again commend you and thank you for getting yourself this far, and for putting yourself out there to be a board member for all of our members out there. So I very much appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Terry. And likewise, I want to commend the other candidates for doing just what you said, for putting their hat in the ring, and for working hard to improve the sport. And you yourself, you do so much work, and I know everyone out there is appreciative of what you do.
I appreciate that. Well, I have just the final thing to read for everyone in case you've gotten this far and you need to know more details about how you can vote, what this is all for, what it all matters for. The answer is, during the first week of the elections, the PDGA members who are current as of June 25th, 2025, and for whom the PDGA has a valid email address, they'll receive online election instructions, including your individual ballot. The PDGA will send the ballot weekly to those who have not yet voted, so you get reminders. If members don't receive an email, please email elections@pdga.com with your name and the PDGA number, and they'll get it out to you, and it'll all go through a very streamlined and easy process in order to get out there and vote. So with that, Matt, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the consideration of being a PDGA Global Board member. I certainly appreciate it, as do all the members. Good luck to you, and we'll catch everyone at the next one.
Thank you, Terry.